Hockey Nation fans, welcome back to the Hockey Nation live show with Coach Frenchy directly from the boat and from the West Coast, Michael Devellano. Welcome, Michael, and the boot. It's a happy Tuesday for everybody, November 10, 2020. So it's going to be a great day again and a great show. We are going to talk about who, Michael, today?
Today we get to talk about the Nashville Predators.
Oh, we'll see what happened over there. They have a change of coaching, like coach last season over there. We still have Mr. David Boyle, over 22 years with this organization. Did not win anything. I don't know why he's still there, but that's another subject. We can talk about this a little bit later during the day. You know, he's never been win any Stanley Cup. I believe, I could be wrong. You can maybe remind me this. This is coming from the Washington Capitals, this guy?
Yeah, he was in Washington for a long time. And it was the same issue, right? They just couldn't get over the hump.
Consistency over there with him. Over, you know what I mean? Like he's always been with good organization, everything. Yeah. So, and the one thing he really do, and he can see this, is usually loyal with his employee. How many years, like Barry Trotz, been there? 14, 15 years over there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he's a really good person, honestly, but did not, carry on the ice with winning. But at the end of the day, it's about he's going to be Hall of Fame, definitely on the management side in NHL. But like we do every single day when we're showing up, we go right to the breaking news or anything's going on around the league in the NHL, and we have three signatures. I want to talk about two of them. Honestly, it would be surprised me. One has surprised me, but let's start with the big one yesterday with the Dallas Star, the RFA, 23 years old from Finland, Rupi Hans, signing a contract at 3 years with $9.45 million, at 3.15 billion AAV per year. And I believe in 60 games last season, he had 33 points. That's something out of my mind right now. I could be wrong on maybe more. But I think
did he have 19 goals?
Yeah, I think he has 19, 14.
Yeah, I think you're right. That sounds right.
And then we have a 25 game that's during the playoff. You have 2 goals, 11 assists, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like him. I mean, he is a big guy. He's got when he gets going, we saw last year in the playoffs, he kind of it's like, who is this guy? Because he looked like the best player on the ice, and he took over games. And you saw this year in the playoffs, when he got hurt, you were like, he kept getting hurt. He kept having some freak accidents. And then finally was out, and it really affected them on the ice. He's a really interesting player. Like, he's a young guy that's got reach. He can skate. He can shoot the puck. He's at $3 million. How many years was it?
3 years.
Wow. Like, you've got to say, here's a guy that scored 19 goals in his first 60 game season, right? So if he had 58 games the prior year and he had 9 goals. So he just doubled his production.
Yeah, honestly, he is. You mentioned he's a big guy. He's another one again. Finland, with 5 million people, create players year after year.
Phenomenal.
He's a 49 overall pick in 2015. What I think what we saw more from him this year, for me at the end, it was the fact he was really play also on PK. He was like a two-way player. He played 15 minutes on the ice. He played on the second unit power play usually with Dallas. 20 goals, and it's pretty amazing. You think about 60 games, so you can have maybe 22, 23, and everybody discover him. I think he's going to be a top 6. He can be a top 6 player, honestly, on that team with the Dallas Star. And it's another one flourish on the young kids in the NHL under 23 years old. So I think it's a good deal also at 3.15. million per year for 3 years. He's still going to be a RFA, by the way, Michael,
Wow.
at the end of this contract. So, and again, that was going to be very interesting, but great signature for both ways.
I love it. I think there's so much. I think, we didn't realize how good they were, I think, until obviously this playoff, right? It's like we kept watching and like, when are they going to lose? When are they going to lose? And then you realize they're a very good team. And this is why. The emergence of Gurianov, the emergence of Rupe Hintz, you see how good Radek Faksa is. And then you got these veteran guys around them. And even though Seguin was hurt badly to the point where he's not going to start the season, they just kept playing and winning. And this is one of the reasons why, like, to get this guy for 3 years at $3 million, I mean, he would be a top center on a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Like, compare him to Ryan Johansson, who we're going to look at today. What's the difference?
Exactly. Yeah. He is really impressive last season. I think, like, it's a little bit what Eskinen, is it Eskinen for the defenseman? Is it
Eskinen? Like, wow, this guy's like phenomenal. Where'd he come from?
Yeah.
Good overall pick, but still, like, I don't think any of us anticipated how good that guy was.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's get away about that one. The one thing he was also he played both positions. He really played more at some point as a left wing, but he can play
center.
Can play a center too. The beauty of the put him on center, Michael, I believe, because the size of
he can skate and he's got reach and
so I think it's a good way to see him over there. Good for Dallas.
With Seguin out, you're going to see him more at center, I think. And because he's not going to, Seguin will start the season late because of the surgery. So I'm like, think of him with Ben every game. Like, and then you got Pavelski on the second line, and then you got Faksa. Like,
yeah, exactly. So good signature. I start to call them like the COVID contract. That's what I started.
It's crazy. Well, what's funny, Pierre, is these might all seem very expensive in a year, because if the cap is normalized to revenue, which, if they play a shortened season, it'll be if they play 60 games, and it'll be prorated as 60 games. If the cap has got to drop after this year, like it's impossible not to. Like, how are they going to have people in the stands? The revenue is going to drop. So I think it's really challenging. The actual cap number is probably 40% lower than we're looking at.
Yeah, I don't think so. They will change it. To be honest with you, I don't see this because the fact, like, too many teams going to be, or they're going to have a modification, because you cannot drop at 78 when they have those contracts.
That's the problem. But you and I see this. How many teams are under the cap right now?
Oh, they have, I think we got about, I think last week before the contract start, like this week, it was about 11 teams. It was under $1 million.
Yeah. And that's why you're not seeing people go aggressive on these other players.
Of course.
Because in a year, a lot of teams, you're going to see their next year cap is already well under.
The second thing about this, Mike, like, if you're a GM right now, you have Mike Hoffman, you can sign, example, like at $5 million, right? And then the league decide to play only 48 games.
$2 million.
No, my point to you is like, like, why spend $5 million? A guy is going to play a season of 48 games, because the salary don't go with.
It does. It will drop.
Wait.
No, it does drop, actually. So it will drop. If the season is prorated, it will drop.
You think?
That's why I'm saying the actual number is lower than the value of these contracts. So they already put money into reserve. I think it's 10 or 15%. So if I get $1 million, I'm only getting $850, and then 10 or 15% goes into a reserve to true up based upon actual revenue.
So why they would pay the player only $2 million?
So the way the NHLPA agreement works is it's a split of revenue, and what they're doing is they're projecting revenues based on TV and gate. So the Players Association gets, I think it's 49 or 50%, somewhere around there, and that's what all the players share in, and then it's kind of like their part of it. So if I have $1 million contract up front, I only get $850,000. And then 150 goes into that player reserve. And then if the actual revenues come in as target, I get it. Now, what's going to happen is if they prorate the season to 48, it's going to, be 55%. So it'll be 55% of my actual contract. They will actually increase the reserve. So up front, I will probably only get 40% of my contract, and I'll get the balance at the end.
But the team have a contract of $80 million.
Doesn't matter. That's a cap number.
So what are you going to get? How are you going to pay if they play only?
It's what I just explained. So if there's 80 games normally and my contract's $1 million, it's $1 million based upon an 80 game schedule.
Okay.
What happens is there's a player reserve of 15%. So I'm up front over the course of that 80 games, I'm only getting $850,000. The 15 goes into a player reserve, and I get it at the end when the actuals are in. What's going to happen is if it goes from 80 games to 48,
40, 50, 50.
Whatever, for math's sake, say it's 40, 50, they're going to increase the reserve from 15 to 65. So you're only going to get paid
$500 of your $1 million.
Probably less. You'll get 350 up front, and then you'll get the other 15 at the end.
So the player losing $500,000.
Just because the owners will. Because it's a partnership under the NHL agreement. So that's why nobody wants to drop the season, right? But the reality is, if there's no gate revenues, what's the point?
Yeah, of course, I understand.
Because I think it's like it's a percentage of revenues NHL.
Yeah, there's a 1% go to the back at the bank or in the safety of X percentage for the agreement between NHL and HLPA.
Right. So it's crazy. So
yeah. It's like a little bit like the escrow, the owners.
It's escrow.
Yeah. So that's all about. All right, makes sense. That's a good point here. Good information. Like that very well. Minor signature, but again, still the Nashville. We're going to go with Nashville Predators in a few minutes, but they just signed yesterday the second round pick. I think it was the 42 overall in 2020. Luke Evangelista. Yeah. It's a entry level deal, very minor there, but I believe he played with Saginaw or Erie.
London.
Oh my God, London. Yeah, London Knights.
Yeah.
Yep. So right. Played London Knights last season, and so 42. He was the player was between from the expert NHL draft people. They was put him between 35 to 45, and he got 42. You never know. I always believe that the second round pick players are the most intriguing player can make the NHL compare sometime between 20 to 32, 31.
So he's he's a 2002. He is got a lot of room to physically grow because I think he's only like 165 pounds. He went basically playing 27 games, getting 2 points to a point a game. And one thing that you have to he's playing under Dale Hunter, and Dale Hunter's philosophy is that the star players play a lot.
Yeah.
So when you look at the minutes and you look at the guys that are there, so Connor McMichael's the star there, and his numbers are very high and his ice time's very high, and some of that's a function of that. But you look ahead of them, they had Ryan Merkley, Liam Foudy, Jonathan Gruden, and you think all those guys are probably gone. So now he's the 18-year-old. So you've got 3 19-year-olds that were playing ahead of him, and now he'll move up and he's going to get a ton of ice time. And he'll really develop. So I think you're right. He has the potential to be a really good pick. If there's a season, that'll play well. The flip side is if there's not a season, they probably signed him thinking we're going to have this big reserve of players and we have to develop them directly. So either way, but I think most likely they play something like London will be one of the teams that will definitely play something next year. They just have too much revenue and too much, they're the richest team probably in all of junior hockey. But it bodes very well for this player.
Yeah, I agree with you. would be I don't I don't think he's going to be the next big player, but I think he have
He
a
might be.
potential him to make the NHL at some point. That's my point to you this morning.
Yeah, well, again, I think he could be one of those guys that gets so much ice time that he develops, right? Like if you're in London, it's a good thing. Like he might be. He's not going to be a top guy in London and not develop.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see happening over there.
Yeah, it's a good move.
It's a really good, yeah, of course. And the one I want to talk to you about this is when maybe talk a little bit more about how this works, everything like that. Is the signature of the Winnipeg Jets Cole Perfetti is a 3 year contract entry-level deal, but he signed a bonus. I don't know if you know about that. His contract, he can be on over $1.45 or $44,000 per season if you make the.
So I mean, the bonuses are all part of the entry level agreement, right? So they're maxing out on the bonuses for him. It's a real question mark if Saginaw plays, in my opinion. So there again, this is a top guy that he's going to have to play somewhere. I'm kind of surprised. Like, is he playing anywhere right now? Did they send him to Europe? I don't think so, right?
No.
So he'll play on Team Canada. The problem is that is a U.S. side team. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Saginaw. Do they move them to Canada for the season, to an arena? They're not going to get equalization money from the government, whereas other teams in the OHL will. So they'll probably play something. But I don't know. They're going to play who are they going to play if they play in the U.S. border side? They can't play anybody.
Would be very interesting about like everybody
in Flint, like
everybody's going on the old right now. I think we have another 3 months now. Everybody talk about they finally a vaccine by. We'll see what happened over there. But what has impressed me, like Cole have maybe until to a AAV of $1.6 million if you raise those bonus.
How is that possible? Because the entry level agreement is capped, even with bonuses. Like you can't pay guys big bonuses. That seems strange to me. Let me look at the number.
But that's what they said here. Like the Winnipeg Jets.
How do they do that?
Cole Perfetti a 3 years contract level with an AAV of 1.658 millions. They have a contract like that. They have you can reach a bonus after that.
$500,000.
So they
max everything.
Yeah, of course. But just talking also, I want to go back to hands to be sure people understand for the AAV because the contract and the mention like the salary cap problem. Rope he get 2 million, 3 million, and 4.45 at the end, and because he get the money at the end of the 3 years, now he'll be on a qualification offer of a 3.78 on right away, and not to reevaluate at the beginning the 2 million, like split the 3-1. Does it make sense?
Yeah, let me look so I understand.
So that's what happening with him over there.
Base salary goes up to 4.45. You're saying, so he's actually only paid 2 million, 3 million, and 4.5.
Yep.
So then, to your point, the qualification will be in the $5 million range.
Yeah, exactly. So I really believe he's going to be now between $3 to $5 million, and maybe more.
He'll be over 4.4.
Oh yeah, definitely would be like.
Yeah. I think it's 18%. So there's like I think he automatically gets like an 18% raise.
Yeah. So what happening is like he get like 3. Yeah, absolutely right. So 3.15 million salary. He's going to get now 3.78 at the qualification of his offer at the beginning.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, good number right there. 18% right there. The last news we have around the league, honestly, it's a one here on my backyards, and it's a good one. I think he can bring a lot. Is signature of assistant coach for the Florida Panthers, Ulf Samuelsson. The 56 years old, played 16 years in NHL, more recognized as with the Hartford Whalers and Pittsburgh Penguins, the New York Rangers, Detroit Red Wings, and the Philadelphia Flyers before he retired in 2000. He was right now pro scout with the Seattle Kraken, but now he, by the way, at that moment, like he was in Sweden coaching the Sweden. He was coaching the he's not in the Fakesta, Sweden. So he was coaching the team at that moment right now, but now he's going to be with Florida Panthers.
Yeah, we've seen him in Phoenix.
Samuelsson hurt someone, like a eye.
Neely.
What?
Cam Neely.
Is it Cam Neely?
Cam Neely, yeah, the dirtiest hit.
Okay. I thought something there or someone I was.
Remember, like the big issue with Cam Neely, I think, was the way it was treated. So it was basically an intentional knee on knee. And Cam Neely, if anybody doesn't know, was like a goal a game player. Like he's like a monster, right?
Yeah.
Big, tough, mean, soft hands. Like he was the prototypical superstar power forward. And then Ulf Samuelsson, who's also a tough defenseman, dirty hit, knee on knee. And then the problem, I think, was that the knee calcified because the idiot doctors in Boston, whoever was treating it, didn't keep Cam Neely moving. I think they kept him in a cast, which was stupid. Like it was like totally so it screwed the guy's career. Like,
yeah. Well, unfortunately, he never been the same after that.
No, I was like,
not at all. Like you have a really difficult time, maybe something like that. So talking about NHL, they're still looking for January 1st to make this happening. We'll see what happened there, but it's would be very interesting about that one over there. Now I want to mention a couple of new, not bad news, a couple of news around the league and everything like that. Jonathan Davidson, the 23 years old from loan by the Ottawa Senators to the Vastelvik AIK of the Allsvenskan. I'm sorry about the pronunciation, but that's what they are with this one over there. I want to mention about one player here is maybe you can talk about, we have a time, we have about 5 minutes. Talk a little bit more about Connor Bedard.
Well, he got exceptional status. He is a very, very talented player. He is not that big, but he's got a very high skill level and he can do things at a high tempo. I compare him in a lot of ways to Jack Hughes. I'm not sure if he's as fast as Hughes, but he's in that same style. And I think he's another Power Edge Pro guy. So he's got kind of like that puck placement, retrieval, tight area game, right? And he can make moves at a high tempo in small areas. It's going to be very difficult in a normal situation for him to come in as an underager in the WHL. He's not like Shane Wright. But if you look in the OHL, Shane Wright is like a tank. And he's like 6 foot, he's probably 190, 200 pounds as a 14 and 15-year-old, right? So now Connor Bedard's probably like 5'8".
5'9". Wow.
Yeah, 5'9". Then he's probably like 160.
Yep, 65.
So I think there's a difference there, right? He's not built like a Shane Wright who steps into the OHL, gets a point a game. Now he could be that player. But I think it'll be tough for him to do that. We've seen young guys, get games up on the W. It takes him a little while to adjust. So he's going to be a very good player. I mean,
he played U18 last year.
He's really talented.
SHL, he have 84 points, 36 games. But what's impressive right now, he played right now in Sweden, that is J20 national team.
Yep.
There, and he have 4 points, 4 games, 2 goals, 2 assists. So he's only 15, turns 16 in July next year. So he's only 15 and a half, and he's playing right now with the kids J20 national in Sweden.
So he's playing overage, which let's take a look. I haven't seen his stats yet. So
he has 4 goals, 2 goals, 2 assists in 4 game over there.
-3. That's interesting.
He played J18 for 1 game. He have 2 points. Really interesting about.
I mean, that's against, guys are quite a bit older.
Yeah, definitely about that one over there. I just want to mention
It's also on bigger ice, Pierre, and it's also, it's not like playing in 17-year-olds in OHL, right? So I think it's probably a step below the OHL, but it's still high level.
Yeah. Talking about the Nashville, we'll talk about either one of the player, Connor and Graham Nashville loan, the 23 years old, to the Pashkoven of the Allsvenskan, just read loan over there. So that would be another one over there. Would be very interesting. I can't wait to see the USA, the Russian team junior, because they have like Vasil, Rodeo Amirov and also Yagor and Askarov in the net, and then you have also Prokolskin. We really interesting. I can't wait to see the 2021 World Junior Championship. Something we're going to follow up here on the operation for sure.
We will be there.
Yeah, exactly.
Where is it this year?
So again,
where is it this year?
It's in Edmonton.
Yeah, that's probably smart.
Yep.
I don't know how they're going to get people in.
By the door.
Crazy, man.
So by talking about Davidson, I don't know if that he's brought. No, I'm not sure he's his brother, but Marcus Davidson, 21 years old, for the Buffalo Sabre prospect, was transferred from the Vax Joe of the SHL to the Vestovkik of the Allsvenskan. Allsvenskan, is it a league? Does everybody talk about Allsvenskan? Is it a hockey league?
I don't know. What's the player's name?
Marcus Davidson. 21 years old. I was just curious. He's the brother of the another Davidson. We just talked about one over there.
Let's look. Jonathan Davidson's his brother.
Yeah, that's the league. So Allsvenskan is a hockey league. That's just want to let you know about that one over there. The last 2 seasons he played in Sweden.
Is that like a lower division?
Yeah. So just
Division 2
one over there. We hit the 30, and the 30 is it's showtime with Michael Devellano. We're going to talk about the Nashville Predator.
Oh, I had this article up, by the way.
Will be interesting about
it explains the split of revenues and how it works. All right, so today we have the Nashville Predators. I don't know. I'm kind of curious about this. On paper, it looks a little rough. You pointed out before that David Poiles, the longtime general manager, hasn't won a Stanley Cup. They came real close, and they had a great run there. He did make one move in the offseason, which was to get Luke Kunin for Nick Bonino. Nick Bonino is a real consistent centerman for that team, but he's quite a bit older than Kunin, so I think that their stats are similar enough that Kunin's going to be played in a top 6 role. If you look at the roster, he's going to have to. So I think this is a smart move for Nashville. Craig Smith is gone, Austin Watson's gone, and Mikael Granlund's gone. So right now there's a lot of, you probably between those guys, you've got 45 goals gone, and then Bonino's 18, which will probably even out with Kunin. But there's still a big question of like where the 35 goals going to come from. Because I think Craig Smith's a pretty consistent 18, 20 goal guy. Austin Watson's like 8 to 10. And then Granlund got 17 last year, and we know normally you can get more. So it's kind of interesting. You mentioned before Yaroslav Askarov, who to me was a very intriguing goaltending prospect in the draft. They grab him at what, 10th overall or 11th?
12.
12.
Maybe 11, but I think it's 12.
Let's check. I can't remember now.
Because you have Minnesota, you have Winnipeg at 10, and maybe miss one over there.
Where's the draft? There it is. 11th.
11, yep.
So they grab him at 11th. They may have just, stole the draft. Like, it's going to take a few years, but I have not seen a goaltending prospect like this in a while. Not since Carter Hart, and Carter Hart went in the 2nd round. So, I mean, I think he compares very favorably to goaltenders that are in the NHL from the Russian system, like the goaltender in Washington, Samsonov, and then the goaltender Vasilevsky in Tampa, who we know has emerged as probably one of the best goalies in the league. And so is Samsonov potentially too, you know. You mentioned Luke Evangelista. I think this is another smart pick who's going to develop. But in the end, when you look with the departures of Smith, Watson, and Granlund, and even Bonino is a little bit of a risk, where are they going to score? It's kind of some interesting question marks. So the projected lineup has Ryan Johansson, Matt Duchene, and Kalle Järnkrok and Brad Richardson down the middle. But the wings are curious after the top line. So Philip Forsberg, we know, is a consistent offensive producer when healthy. Victor Arvidsson, the same. Luke Kunin, you have to project as being a 15 to 20 goal scorer. Eli Tolvanen has never really played a full season with them. He was highly touted as a goal scorer, but if that's who you're penciling in because you don't have much choice, there's a question mark there. So you're really projecting what he can do over a full season with a regular shift, and you know, is he a liability or not? The third line, like Nick Cousins, we know is a decent NHL two-way player, and Grimaldi is a small player with a high skill level, but he's not necessarily going to be offensively productive the way you would hope. Trenin is another draft pick from a number of years ago where you're not sure, can this guy produce offensively? We know Brad Richardson's a real good NHL player, but he's not like an offensive one. And Colton Sissons, I really like Colton Sissons, and maybe he flexes up and gets a bigger role because of the gaps in the lineup. You have to think that this is a potential destination for players like Mike Hoffman. You know, there's probably a few other guys that they should be looking at, but they don't seem very aggressive about filling those spots. On D, though, they are insane as usual on the top four anyway. Roman Josi is, you know, Norris Trophy winning defenseman. Ryan Ellis is highly underrated, smaller but offensively intelligent, smart player who can play real well with an active stick in the defensive zone. Matthias Ekholm, we know, is a top 10 or 15 defenseman in the NHL when you watch him. Dante Fabro will have a bigger role this year, and he looks like he's ready for that. It's interesting that they signed Matt Benning, who Edmonton just jettisoned. And I like Matt Benning. Like, I think Matt Benning can skate. He's a good outlet passer, and he has an underrated shot. He actually has a big shot from the point, but he never gets to use it in power play settings. So I actually like that pickup. And then Mark Borowiecki is a guy that is also very underrated. Like, he's a very solid defenseman. So they're very solid as usual on defense. In net, they remain solid. Although if you look at the numbers last year, they really jumped up. Pekka Rinne really struggled last year. He had a .317 save percentage, and Saros was up around 2.8 or 2.9. So there's a little bit of a question mark there. It'll be interesting to see what happens. They do traditionally, under Peter Laviolette, they had the defenseman jump in. John Hines, which to me was a very curious change from Peter Laviolette to John Hines. I'm not sure how that pans out. So when you look at the numbers, you really got to worry a little bit. Offensively, like, where are the goals coming from? They do have balance. Like, you're really projecting that Tolvanen can get, 10 to 15 goals. Can he score more? Then that's great. Forsberg and Arvidsson have to be healthy. Duchene has to be healthy, because these are guys that haven't always been healthy the last few years. We know they get goals.
Prediction, right?
Yeah, this is projection. I'm guessing, right? So it's a problem, because even if you look at the goals against last year, they had more than 237 against. So those 38 goals that they lost with Craig Smith, Mikael Granlund,
Bonino,
and then Austin Watson, like, that really hurts. Plus, we're not even counting Kyle Turris, who they let go. So not that Turris was great, but he still had 9 goals. So and Bonino, I think it kind of evens out with Kunin. Like, that's my assumption. So it's like Bonino's production is probably the same as Kunin's. Like, they're probably pretty much the same. Craig Smith, like, where are those goals coming from? Those 18 goals. Kyle Turris is 9 more. Granlund, 17 goals. Like, Granlund was they just let him walk. Arvidsson, we see, only had 15 goals last year, so I'm really projecting that he gets back to his normal production because he missed a lot of time due to injury. Look at their top 4 players, right? Like Forsberg missed time, Duchesne missed time. There's one other guy that missed. Colton Sissons even missed time. So you're really projecting that even at these numbers, that Duchesne, Johansson, Forsberg, and Arvidsson get back to normal. And you're really projecting that Tolvanen gets more offense. You're hoping that Kunin replaces the exact same production. He should. He had 15 goals last year. Sissons looks like he might be able to flex up, so maybe projecting him at 5 is a little bit low. And Grimaldi had 10 goals last year, so it's kind of in that striking range. But it's curious, like, you know, it's not obvious where the offense is going to come. Now it should work out, but right now on paper it looks kind of bad. And I don't see anybody coming up that is like, you know, it's not like they have a high-end prospect that's going to step in and really replace it. You know, do you project Trenin to replace it? I'm not sure. They still have to sign Kunin, but I don't think he'll get a crazy contract.
Well, here's what I'm thinking. First of all, they still have a $13 million on the salary cap.
A lot of money. Yeah.
Right? They have -1 for have a minimum of players signed. They have 19 contract on the 23, so they still have 4 players to sign up right there. They have 41 contract on 50 and 63.90, and next year they have like 7 draft pick, just a normal, nothing big, nothing bad. What you mentioned to us right now, I think is that you have Johansson did not play the level he's supposed to play. Forsberg was hurt last season. Arvidsson has always been a problem with injury usually, but they produce together. They expect 25 goals. I think Johansson at 22 is a little bit high. Maybe is now become a 15 to 18. But if he can get 40 assists, 45 assists, I think that would bring a lot of what this line here. Now you go back now the second. As the problem you get Duchesne. Duchesne did not play the level he's supposed to play last season. You know, and you talk about 2 players have $8 million and the salary cap for about 5 to 6 years. So it's a red flag over there. Now, besides,
it's a huge red flag. And then I don't know about you. I'm not like really sold on the coach. I mean, I don't think the coach is an upgrade from Laviolette. Like, I think they probably downgraded. Like, Laviolette had a very attacking style. He had the defense jumping in. And what is Hines? I don't know what he is.
We'll see what happened. The second line is like my problem with second line. I really like the young kids over there. Eli
Tolvanen.
Yeah, I'm not sure he should be the second line. That's my red flag. Is maybe not the right chair
red flag, you know, like
at that moment. Kunin at the right is another one should not be at that. They are really questionable about the chair over there. Now the bottom 6 there is really not great, to be honest with you.
Like Sissons is very good, and Sissons can play center or wing. So maybe we're underselling what he can do. Like he had 9 goals last year in 57 games. I do like him. I was surprised when they moved Watson.
Yeah, he is a 12, 15 goal.
I think probably that's it.
I think he's maybe not the right share of the lineup you put there. Right? I think
he moves up probably.
Higher over there too. But you know, he still have a $3 million on his contract for 5 more years, where it could be a little bit high at that moment. But again,
I think they got to sign someone, Pierre. I mean, I don't see how they don't. Like, they need to get a Hoffman. Maybe they bring back Granlund. I don't know if they like him that much, but they're looking for a deal right now, obviously.
Yeah, of course. But I don't think I'm not right now. Granlund playing KHL right now. So he's loan over there. We'll see what happening. I'm not so in Carson. So when you put the 9 goal on that third,
it's a big projection, man. There's a lot of question marks.
Yeah. So that's make this sense to me. Now, if you go on defenseman, you know already what Jose is going to bring.
Totally.
I always consider Ryan Ellis the underrated in the NHL because the people should give him more credit for what he can bring in the NHL. Then smart. You talk about the not not flashing player, but he do a great job. He's always been outcome over there. Now, after that, that's my biggest concern. Before, they always have a 4 defensemen, and
Yeah.
Subban was there before, and they always have someone solid. They don't have any more solid players. Well, you have to go with Borowski and then Benin, Fabro, and Tinori. Now they lost Weber. I don't know where Weber went, but before that was Matt Irwin, if you remember that.
He's pretty good. I like Matt Irwin.
Yep. So 5 and 6. So now they're missing 2, 3 good players. They left forward. They're missing now 1 or 2 good defensemen at the 4 and 5 on the chair. And then the biggest question is, Piqué Reina hit he reminded me what Henrik Lundqvist did at 37.
Well, look at the numbers from last year. Like, he did not perform well. So I think my numbers are probably maybe, let's say we even go with last year. You look at, he probably plays the 40 or the 38. And let's be nice and give him 2.9. And then Saros, if you say, okay, he's back to what he was last year, and he goes 48, it still doesn't really pan out. There's no way.
Piqué Reina right now, I've been honest with you, he is now a backup goalie.
He is, yeah. And that's why you see them drafting Askarov.
Yeah, it's a bit more expensive what he's supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Zaro, I think Zaro should be a little bit better. I think you have more expectation from him. He's only 25. I think he should be. But again, what they have in front of them.
He's small, Pierre. He's a small goalie.
That's other things there. But my point is, he's been a good goalie as a backup number 2. He cannot be carry on your team, and he goes to the playoff as a goalie number 1. That's what the struggle over there.
Because if you watch him, so again, I think this is a case of it's in Nashville, so it's a little off the radar. When you watch Pecorine, even at his height, you'd be like, there's something missing. And Saro's numbers are very good because of that they're very deep on defense. But to your point, when it gets to the tough games, I don't know if he stands up as a 1A. He's still a 1A, but he's like a little off. It's like when Jonathan Bernier was at his best, it's probably like that.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one there. The second thing I want to mention to you is for 6 more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more years. 7 more years, Michael. I maybe be dead, right? But they have to pay Kyle Turris for $2 million per year.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean,
that's unbelievable about that one over there.
It's
$2 million about this. This is one. That's what David Poile did a lot of bad. Did not do well for the last 2-3 years as a manager. Still, they went to the finals conference cup.
Think about this too, right? He trades Kevin Fiala, who, by the way, was a pain in the ass, right? He was a very immature guy, didn't like the way he operated, moves him to his buddy Fenton in Minnesota and gets Granlund. Lets Granlund go for nothing.
Yep.
He trades his top defenseman at the time, saying, hey, I got lots of depth on D. He moves Shea Weber to get PK Subban like 4 or 5 years ago. Gets nothing for PK Subban, essentially. So,
I know.
Nothing for Craig Smith. Gets nothing. It's like, and then you make a big, and then he trades a bunch of stuff to get Matt Duchene.
That's another big problem over there too. They you talk about defensemen, the Samuel Girard, Seth Jones.
Right, that's the Duchene trade, right? Like, well, okay, the Seth Jones one for Johansson, I get. I think
again, Johansson never be the players he was in Columbus.
It's tough to say because he
has never been.
Pierre, why did they trade him? They traded him because Johansson was up and down like a yo-yo. And so they moved him thinking this guy's not a number 1 center. And they got a number 1 D. So it worked out for Columbus.
This is a great point you mentioned this. This is really, really important what you just said. He's not a center number 1. This is really important. This is really... No, but honestly, you know what?
You wish.
Yeah, of course. You know what I mean? Like, is it a number one defense center? Is it a guy can score an average 14 goal per year?
No, that's the problem. And I think you understand why Jarmo traded him. Like Kekalainen made the assessment early. The Tortorella made the assessment early and said, he's not going to be a number one centerman. This guy doesn't have the consistency and grit. He doesn't have the work ethic. Now we saw when Nashville made their run to the Cup, this guy looked like a monster, right? Yep. And then he goes back. Now he had the bad injury, but then he goes back into his shell, right? So he's a player that gets comfortable, and he dominates in the face-off circle. He's a big man. He should be getting like big points, right?
I don't want to diminish his play. But in Columbus, he has 33 goals, 26. Since that, he never been over 15 goals, and he got more assists per year. But the last 2 seasons, he have 36 points, 64, 54. The one thing he does well, do you know what he does well? He produced in playoff.
That's what I was saying to you. When they had their playoff run, they went to the final. He was a monster. And then, but he had
like 14 points.
Oh yeah, he was a monster.
And 13 games, 5 goals.
Ryan Johansson being Ryan Johansson. Like if he hit that level, then you're excited, right? But he's a 50, 60 point player in a good year now.
Yeah.
And guess what? Who else is? Seth Jones.
Yeah, no, but it is a good point. He's really center number one that's questionable. Now,
by the way, Matt Duchene's not a number one center. Matt Duchene, look at Colorado, why they struggled all those years. You see why. Matt Duchene can really skate, really high skill level. He's soft. He looks like he should be a starter, but he never will be.
I think what was not right about Matt Duchene, I will tell you what reason. He have 2 good seasons in Colorado. One is 70 points, 71. And then after that, he never been the same player after that. He never crossed the 60 point after that year. Only he got one. And, remember he had a good start with Ottawa. Like 2 years ago, he had like 58 points, 50 game. But since, I don't know him. I don't want to say that. I'm not sure about his commitment as a full. But again,
he's not a bad person. So he's a 1991 Pierre, right? So I coached against him in the OHL Cup. He played with the North Central Predators. So at the time, it was Ryan O'Reilly, who we had with the Toronto Junior Canadiens. It was Taylor Hall in Kingston, and then it was Matt Duchene, and then Casey Cizikas. And Cizikas at that point was a monster with what was then the Mississauga Ice Dogs, is now back to whatever it is now. I forget the name. They changed back from the Ice Dogs to their old name. The thing that you knew when you went up against him is, man, he produced ridiculous numbers, Pierre. His skill level is so high. But the guys talked about it on the bench, and they knew, go hit him. And Matty would disappear. He would just go into a shell. He did not like to be hit. And he did not like to, get rough. And you can see, he's the same kid, he's very skilled. He's high in player, but he's not your franchise guy.
No, I agree with you. That's another one I don't get it very well. Let's finish with Nashville with the draft pick. I think we have to just go through this and think at 2020 they got 2 good ones. I think Askarov and Evan is going to be.
I really like that.
I don't know. No, maybe you can talk a little bit more about Tomasino and also the Tomasino. I don't have no clue about. He played in the OHL for the Niagara Ice Dog. He's a winger and look like.
I'm trying to project what this guy ends up being. Like, my gut tells me he's an AHL guy. But, it's not that he's bad. I just don't know. Like, maybe not. He did get 40 goals last year, but he was an overager, I believe.
Yeah.
You look at, he had 34 goals and then 40 goals. He got traded from Niagara to Oshawa. So he is a good player. So maybe I'm wrong. Like, maybe this is a guy that they give a little bit of time and he's a good NHL winger. I'm having a really hard time projecting what his offensive numbers will be. He's always been a good offensive player. Like he had 100 points last year in the OHL. So that is very good. I mean, that's the toughest junior league in the world. So he's not a bum. I'm trying to say, like, does this guy become a 20 goal scorer? Does he play in the AHL? And I just don't know the answer. He doesn't overwhelm me with anything, but, I think he's probably one of those quiet picks that works out. Or, he just bounces back and forth, and it'll be really interesting to see. I don't think there's like a guarantee that this guy is going to play in the NHL. That's my feeling.
Yeah, I agree with you about that one over there. Since 2010, the draft pick was not very good. You talk about Zed Jones, but of course he's number 4 overall. So that he could be number 1 in many drafts for this kid over there. They got one where Fiala, you mentioned. I think in 2014 they did well of 11 overall pick, but after that, they picked Samuel Girard. But Girard is not there anymore.
He played real well.
You know what I mean? And then you have nothing else. Like you have to look about those kind of draft behind that, and they don't have anything where they say, "Oh my God, they did." They stole Arvidsson in 2014, but again, in 2012, no first round pick. 2011, no first round pick. They trade that one, and then you have another year. 2015, no first round pick over there. Number 18, they have only 4 pick and started 4, 5, 5, and 7 in 2018. At some point, those years hurt exactly. So they are not on my. We're going to go after that marathon of 31 team.
So, I mean, this is why when you go back, you have to. I don't know what they're thinking. What they might be thinking is, we're not going to worry about this year too much, and we're just going to get a high pick, and that'll be it. And we'll wait for our great goalie to come. Tomasino, by the way, does have really high skill level, but I think there's problems there. So, but I don't think they're banking on him. I don't think they're banking on the Russian guy. I think
the one they have right now is the left wing Eli Tovdevin.
How do you project that guy given the last 2 years?
I really believe he's going to be a good player for them. I think he's
but we've been waiting and waiting,
20 goal about that one. I think
he should be, right? He should be.
Honestly, they are not on my list of the team to make the playoff. It's the team on the regression as to go on the progression.
Right now, that's why I say, do they fall into lottery territory? And that's the way it looks on paper. But they have so many pieces because they're, again, it's like our discussion. If you're the GM, you go, Ryan Johansson and Matt Duchene are going to lead me to the Stanley Cup. No, you're not going to say that. So you need someone that's going to come in and be an amazing player. If they're smart, they stick with what they've got, they drop, and they get the Finnish kid, or they get one of those high-end picks, and then. But knowing them, they'd probably pick another Brant Clark defense.
I checked the one I follow is about the EOV, game winning, everything like that versus the contract, everything like that, and they gave them a grade A, B, C, D, and then they have 2 players right there. Colton season as a D, and also Ryan Johansson as a $8 million like a D minus because they get too much money for what they have to pay, what he bring on the table. Yeah. And then I'm doing I'm working right now. I'm going to make a list to you in the next couple of days. Next one will be done. The ex-player for each team. So who was there and then he got traded. And I want to mention to you for the Nashville Predator, Kevin Fiala, you mentioned to him.
Well, we talked about that, right? Where he traded Fiala for Granlund, and then he lets Granlund walk for nothing.
Yep. Then he sent Patrick Orvist.
Orngvist, yeah.
Yep. James Neal. Right?
Getting nothing.
Yep. And then after that, defensemen, they have 3 defensemen there. They have Ryan Sutter, Shea Weber, and Zeph Jones. Imagine you have the 3 of those guys right now. You don't need the goalie.
Well, I think, the Shea Weber one to trade for Subban and then dump Subban a year later.
Yeah, 2 years later, but still, you know what I mean? So an idea about that one over there. The only thing he win and he completely destroyed Washington is
Forsberg.
Forsberg again. Uh,
Martin Pratt.
Nothing red. Yeah, that would be the top best fight in
I
it.
never understood that, Pierre, because like Forsberg was drafted, and honestly, even when he was drafted and he dropped to Washington, I was like, how is this guy not better than Nail Yakupov and Galchenyuk?
I'll be honest with you. I remember that year, and Forsberg was my top three player.
We all had him ahead of Nail Yakupov. So I remember, like I think I mentioned to you, we watching the Russian Super Series, and the Russians come to play the WHL All Stars, and you're like, this guy's garbage.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
He was overrated a lot.
This is the and then it's like everybody tricked Edmonton into taking him.
Yep, and then you have Galchenyuk. And
I will be honest, I thought this guy's great, but he missed the whole year, so it was a big risk.
This was his injury, knee injury, was over there. Who was the number 2?
The defenseman was Ryan Murray, who was from Everett.
So that year they was not great, those players.
But then you look at who came after, and there's good players, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. But
I feel like there was, sometimes what happens is, when central scouting is not the level of sophistication of your team. And so when your team goes out and scouts, there's usually a difference between what central scouting sees and what your team sees. And that year, I think what happens is teams that finished 1, 2, 3 were too influenced by central scouting, and it became a consensus. And the question wasn't whether Philip Forsberg should be the first pick. It was, is it Nail or is it Alex? And Ryan Murray looks like a man, skates like he's a great skater, and he's going to be a star, right? But then Ryan Murray was injured. So Ryan Murray, all three, like 2 of the guys were injured, and one guy, I was like, this guy's horrible. But what they were trying to, it was like GMs play games with each other, and scouts do too, right? And they're like, this guy's Pavel Bure.
It's sometimes it's about like marketing of players, right?
It's marketing, and
the guy, like, put on the billboard.
And they're both guys, Galchenyuk and Nail Yakupov. Their agent was Igor Larionov.
Yeah.
So Larionov did a great job, which is like everybody respected him, and they had great numbers, and it was just. I mean, they both played in Sarnia, didn't they?
Yes.
So it was like, wow, I remember watching that Russian team, and I went, "There's a better player here," and that was Val Nichushkin. And I was like, "Who is this guy?" And he ended up getting picked pretty high, but he was like a revelation to everybody that we were watching, right? And I'm like, he's better than this. Yakupov guy is like floating, and he's doing weird little ticky-tacky weird things. He was just weird, it was like you're watching him like, is he even in the game? I didn't get it. And it panned out that way. I mean, all you got to do is listen to Brian Burke's discussion of the interview with Nail Yakupov.
About 2012.
Do you remember, have you heard the story about how the scout wanted to fight him?
Yeah. I heard that.
He was so mad at the player, he wanted to fight him in the interview.
Yeah, so many good players after them.
Yeah, I feel like they just, they didn't do their homework. They got caught up in the consensus discussion, but the real people had Forsberg as the top guy.
You think about this, the first 4 players, right? They have Griffin, Reinhart, Galchenyuk, Murray, and Yakupov. And the only player play a lot of game is Galchenyuk at 549. And it's funny one. He's the most player playing NHL so far.
Well, and then look at Riley. Morgan Riley was hurt again. Like Murray was hurt. Morgan Riley was hurt. Griffin Reinhart looked like the second coming of Shea Weber. Like he absolutely, I thought he was going to be a real good pro. So I didn't think his skating would catch up to him the way it has, and his ability to process the game is not what we thought. But we thought this is a big guy. He played for Team Canada. He's really difficult to play against. He's got a big shot. And, you kind of overlooked the skating. And there was a lot of good defensemen in that draft. So you had Hampus Lindholm, and you had Morgan Riley. In retrospect, was probably the best of them.
Oh, yeah, Tumba.
You had Trouba, you had Dumba. Even, the one that surprises me is Derek
Mata.
There was a lot. Like Tom Wilson was in that draft. Thomas Hertl was in that draft. Tara Vinen was in that draft. Like Vasilevsky was in that draft. Like you go down and there's a lot of guys. Olli Mata was in that draft. Olli Mata stepped right in. So there was a lot there. Just even Brady Shea. Like look at Brady Shea. So it's like, here, actually, I'm going to take a picture. You had Tanner Pearson. So there's a lot of talent there. It just, there's bad decisions. I think people were sick of seeing Edmonton get the first overall pick. And I think it caught up to them because they were listening to the consensus. So it's like, listen, these guys, shouldn't be getting this every year. That's what I feel like happened. And so you look at, Yakupov was junk. Galchenyuk is what he is. Murray is a good defenseman, but we just saw him get traded for like a third-round draft pick. Reinhardt's never panned out. The worst was, so think about this. New York Islanders, Garth Snow, trades Griffith Reinhardt to Edmonton, Peter Chiarelli, right? And what does he get? Matthew Barzal. So he trades him for two picks.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, he was a fourth. We'll give you give us a 15th. Cool. Matthew Barzal. So I think this was like revenge for them constantly getting the first round pick.
He played in KHL.
Reinhardt, yeah, but he's just never. I actually am surprised by that. I thought he would be pretty good. Look at Matheson was in that draft. Mike Matheson, right?
Yep.
Brady Shea's in there. Tanner Pearson was an overage. And then you look in the second round.
It's pretty amazing about that one over there.
It was a crazy draft, but it's definitely. I think it was totally revenge. But I wanted to look at one thing. Hold on. Who's the top offensive players? Forsberg, Hertl was a great pick. Shane Gostisbehere was in that same draft, although I don't really love him. But Tom Wilson was a good pick. So I don't know. It was a weird. There was something going on there. Josh Anderson was in that draft. There's a lot of players that were pretty good.
Everybody on that first round pick, it's rare. I would like to see this every year. Everybody playing NHL.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it was a very good draft overall.
No, it's rare.
It's totally rare to see that many games played. So that's why, like, the miss at the top was so egregious. Like, I don't think it was a miss to get Galchenyuk. Like, I think he is just, we projected him maybe as a little bit better centerman. And I was like, wow, I love this guy better than the other guy. The other guy, to me, seems like he's in outer space. Like he didn't make sense on the ice. He was doing these weird little moves and he was so far away from the net. You're like, why are you doing that? Like he had the speed, he had the shot. Just either go get in scoring position or when you handle it, it was like he was playing with himself. It was bizarre.
Yeah.
Then you saw Forsberg and you're like, this guy's going to be really good. So when on top of it, they traded him before he was like 19 and they traded him. I was like, what are you doing? Martin Erat's junk.
True.
And then it turned out really worse than we all thought.
No, it's really interesting. I think Galchenyuk, he does this, I don't know. He never been over 51 points per year, right? Maybe 2 years, I think he had 28 and 30 games and 30 goals, I think. And then, the consistency did not do it. He did well in Minnesota. He have 7 points, I think, and 7 games over there, or 14 games or something like that. But again, will be interesting what's next for him. You have a low, Ottawa is going to be a top 6. I believe he can score over there more. But the points he never did exactly in Pittsburgh with all those kind of players with him over there. And again, he starts sometime at home. and that home is not always been perfectly good for him, unfortunately. But another great show today. It's good stuff here. It's great. People missing a lot of good show here. If you're not listening to us, honestly, because we bring a lot of information, and we'll see what's happening around the league. I don't know if you ever hear something else before. I need to check all the time because I always missing something.
There's little stuff, right?
We close the show, and then you open up the website, and then breaking news. Like, oh my God, we forgot that one over there. But unfortunately, I have nothing's going on. I just check NHL, Sportnets, and then TSN right now. We have nothing else going on around the league. So I think we'll be done. See what's happening. So tomorrow we're going to go that we are now going to the New York State for a couple of days.
Yeah.
We have the Rangers, New York Rangers, Devils, and also the Islanders for the next 3 days. So we're going to finish the weeks and the New York State with the Devils, the Islanders, and Rangers. Be interesting to see. I think two teams is on the already. One team they do very well with Islanders, and two teams is on the progression with I think the Devils getting more and more better, and then the Rangers that maybe the next 5 years going to be one of the top 5 teams in the league if they do the right things. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you like the move with Lindy Ruff though? That's the question.
Yep, it'll be interesting to see that one there. Look like some coaches have always like a 7 live to come back to live. The next one maybe Bruce Boudreau and Seattle. Just kidding, but we'll see what's happening over there. So you never know about that one there. Thank you very much for everybody. Hockey Nation fam, thanks to be here. Don't forget tomorrow we are back 11 o'clock, and don't forget to subscribe under the YouTube channel. And, of course, on the Facebook page. And look forward to see you tomorrow, Michael, at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Have an amazing Tuesday.
Thanks, Pierre.